Do you really own your home? The truth about property, taxes, and inheritance in the West versus Africa? A powerful question. Imagine this. You work for 30 years. You wake up so early or spend night at shift work. You take life loans. You struggle with repayments. You sacrifice holidays. You sacrifice comfort, but hardship. Finally, one day, the bank sends you a letter. Your mortgage is fully paid when you are maybe 68 years old. Your house is now yours. No more debt, no more bank, just freedom. But then a question appears that many people never think about. Do you truly own the property? Or are you still paying forever? And when you die, what happens to that house? Does your family inherit it freely, or do they pay taxes again? Across Australia, the UK, Europe, Canada, the USA, and New Zealand, the answers are complex. Across Africa, the answers are often very different. Today's video will explore a question that many African immigrants ask quietly. Is property ownership in the West really ownership? Or is Africa actually the place where property freedom truly exists? Let's explore the truth carefully, honestly, and deeply. Part 1. What happens when you finish paying your mortgage? First, let's understand something important. When you buy a property in most Western countries, you normally take a mortgage. A mortgage means the bank lends you money to buy the house. Until you repay the loan, the bank technically holds a legal interest in the property. But once you finish paying the mortgage, the bank no longer owns anything. You become the legal owner of the property. This means the house belongs to you. You can sell it, you can rent it, you can pass it to your children. No bank can take it unless you owe debts. So yes, once the mortgage is finished, you do legally own the property. But ownership in Western countries comes with ongoing responsibilities. The biggest one is property tax or council tax. Part 2. Why do people still pay taxes on a fully paid house? This is where many immigrants become confused. They say, if I already paid the house, why must I keep paying taxes? The reason is simple. In Western countries, property taxes fund local services. These taxes help pay for roads, schools, police, fire departments, garbage collection, parks, public infrastructure. Instead of the national government paying everything, local councils collect property taxes. This system exists in most Western countries, but the names are different. For example, USA, Property Tax Canada, Property Tax UK, Council Tax Australia, Council Rates New Zealand, Rates Europe, property tax, or local tax. Even if your house is fully paid, these taxes still exist. Why? Because the taxes are not on the loan. They are on the land and services around the property. Part 3. What happens when the owner dies? Now let's talk about inheritance. This is another topic that causes a lot of debate. When someone dies in Western countries, their property normally goes through something called probate. Probate is a legal process that confirms who inherits the property. If the person left a will, the house goes to the people listed in the will, usually children, spouse, family members. But in some countries, there may be inheritance taxes. Let's look at them. The United States has estate taxes, but they apply only to very wealthy estates. Currently, the threshold is over $13 million per person. This means most normal families pay zero inheritance tax. Children simply inherit the house. The UK has inheritance tax, but it only applies above a certain value. Currently, about $325,000 to $500,000, depending on circumstances. Many family homes are still inherited tax-free. Australia has no inheritance tax. Children inherit property without inheritance tax. However, if they sell later, there may be capital gains tax depending on circumstances. Canada also has no inheritance tax, but there can be tax on capital gains when property is transferred. New Zealand has no inheritance tax. Children inherit property freely. European Union, different EU countries have different rules. Some have inheritance taxes, some do not. But again, many family homes pass with low or manageable taxes. Part 4. Do children still pay council tax after inheriting? Yes, but this is normal because the property is still part of a city. If your children inherit the home and live there, they will pay council tax, property tax, local rates, just like every other homeowner in that community. But remember something important. These taxes are usually much smaller than the mortgage payments people used to pay. often only a few $1,000s per year. Part 5. What happens if someone cannot pay property tax? This is where many people become worried. Technically, if property taxes are not paid for many years, the government may place a lien on the property. In extreme cases, the property could be sold to recover the unpaid tax. But this situation is very rare because governments usually provide many protections such as payment plans, discounts for seniors, pensioner rebates, hardship support, tax deferrals. For example, in Australia, many elderly homeowners pay very reduced council rates. In some cases, they can even delay payments until the property is sold. So the idea that millions of elderly people are losing homes every year is mostly exaggerated online. Part 6. Is Africa different? Now let's talk about Africa. Many African societies see land differently. In many African cultures, land is viewed as ancestral property. It belongs to the family or clan. It is passed from generation to generation. In many rural areas, there are no annual property taxes. Land ownership may be customary. Families inherit automatically. For example, in some regions of South Sudan, Kenya, rural areas, Uganda, villages, Nigeria, traditional communities, Ethiopia, rural land systems, family land may stay within the lineage for centuries. No yearly tax, no council bills, just inheritance. This gives many Africans a strong sense of permanent ownership. Part 7. But Africa also has challenges. However, the story is not always simple. In many African countries, there are challenges such as unclear land titles, disputes between families, government land grabs, weak legal protections, corruption in land offices, difficulty proving ownership. Sometimes land that families believed belonged to them for generations suddenly faces legal conflict. Without formal documentation, proving ownership can be difficult. In contrast, Western systems provide very strong legal protection. Once your name is on the land title, it is extremely difficult for anyone to take it unfairly. Part 8. Why some Europeans retire in Africa. It is true that many Europeans are retiring in parts of Africa. Popular places include Morocco, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Cape Verde. Why? Several reasons. Lower cost of living, warm climate, beautiful landscapes, cultural experiences, affordable housing. But it is not mainly because of property tax freedom. In fact, many African countries are now introducing property taxes in cities. Urban governments need revenue to build infrastructure, so even Africa is slowly moving towards similar systems. Part 9. What African immigrants in the West say. African immigrants often have mixed opinions. Some say, the West makes you pay taxes forever. Others say, the West gives you security and services. For example, when you pay council rates in Australia, you receive reliable roads, clean water, waste collection, emergency services, public hospitals, safe neighborhoods. These services require funding. In many African cities, services may be less reliable because tax systems are weaker. So the debate is not simply about freedom, it is about different models of society. Part 10. Are there ways to reduce tax burdens? Yes, many homeowners in Western countries use strategies such as pensioner discounts, senior property tax relief, downsizing homes, renting part of property, reverse mortgages, transferring property to family trusts. Families who understand the system can manage taxes quite comfortably, but many immigrants are simply not taught these systems. Financial education is often missing. Part 11. The real truth about ownership. The truth is this: ownership in the West is legal ownership with civic responsibility. Ownership in many parts of Africa is cultural ownership with fewer taxes, but sometimes weaker legal protection. Both systems have advantages. Western model, strong legal protection, inheritance systems, financial markets, property value growth. African traditional model, family land continuity, low recurring taxes, cultural identity. Neither system is perfect. Part 12. A new generation thinking differently. Today, a new generation of Africans is thinking strategically. Instead of choosing one system over the other, they are doing something smarter. They are building assets in both worlds. For example, working in the West, investing in property in Africa, or owning homes in both continents. This gives families financial stability, cultural roots, global opportunity. Conclusion: what true freedom really means. So let's return to the original question. Do you truly own your property in the West? Yes, but ownership exists inside a community system that requires shared responsibility. Do Africans own land freely? Often yes, culturally and historically, but legal systems may sometimes be weaker. True freedom is not simply about avoiding taxes. True freedom is about security, opportunity, stability, and long-term wealth for your children. For African immigrants, the smartest path may not be choosing one world over the other. The smartest path may be learning both systems, using the strengths of each, and building a future where your children inherit not only property, but knowledge. Because in today's world, the greatest wealth is understanding the systems that shape our lives. Majok is a public health expert, life podcaster, and AI specialist based in Australia.